For years, one of the rules I always followed and was taught was pretty simple. Don't trade the news. When CPI drops, when non-farm payrolls hit, when unemployment numbers come out, this is generally when you're going to sit on your hands. Why? Because this is when volatility absolutely explodes. Price rips in both directions. You can see liquidity thinning out. And if you don't understand what's happening underneath the surface, you're essentially gambling, not trading. But here's the reality. The biggest moves of the month often start with macroeconomic news. And if you're always sitting out, you're missing the most powerful auctions of the entire session. So the question then becomes, is there a way to participate intelligently without guessing? Recently, I've been using a tool called MrktEdge AI, and it's fundamentally changed how I approach high impact economic releases. Instead of trying to manually interpret complex macro data in seconds, it uses AI to interpret the data relative to expectations, to historical behavior, and the current market conditions, and gives you a directional bias and an expected market reaction framework. And I'll tell you this, just this past week alone, non-farm payrolls came in strong. The AI framework leaned very bullish. We saw the initial pump exactly as expected, even though it faded later. But unemployment data came in bearish according to the model. We initially pushed up and then sold off aggressively into the open, turning into a massive down day. Then CPI printed exactly in line with expectations. The AI suggested ranging conditions. And what did we get? We got whipsaws up and down, and the market closed basically unchanged. So we don't treat this as prediction. This is structured interpretation, and this is the difference. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean we go full size and started gambling on the headlines as soon as it dropped. I still manage risk aggressively. I still trade small size around the news. I still wait for structure. So I'm using my VWAP, its deviations, the volume profile, and the initial balance to align with any directional bias. But instead of sitting out blindly, I now have a framework to decide, do I engage? Do I wait? Or do I stand down completely? And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I'm using this new tool, how I interpret its output, and how I integrate it into the VWAP wave framework without abandoning my discipline. Because the goal isn't prediction, it's to find market edge. So let's dive into the walkthrough and let's review MrktEdge AI. Okay, everybody, welcome to my walkthrough and review video of MrktEdge AI. This is a really cool tool I've been using within the last week to start exploring trading news events and macroeconomic news releases, which has been really helpful. But another feature that it's provided that I've also been finding very helpful is its daily bias and explaining how recent price behavior is essentially very bearish, slightly bearish, or bullish, very bullish, depending on how the macro environment is playing into the price action. So if you're not one to just sit there and read all news events and be able to calculate all of these news events and happenings in the world and how it's affecting a particular symbol you're trading, this makes it so much easier. So I found that very powerful as well. So you can find this at vwapwave.com/MRKT. Okay, once you get in, all right, you'll sign up. You can log in. This is the dashboard. Okay, up here at the top are my selected products. So products that I am watching personally. I got NQ futures. I have the ES S&P 500 futures, gold futures, NVIDIA, Tesla, a couple other stocks I'm watching. And, if there is a stock that you want to watch, you can simply add it to the list. It's very cool. So now I have Boeing, Microsoft added, right? So once I have my watch list, I can click on any of these symbols and it shows me what price is doing and what the technical pullback and target levels are based on headline news and how AI is calculating based on historical price action due to specific types of news releases and how it analytically affect price. So on the S&P 500, for example, S&P 500 steady post CPI bounce, AI fears Iran tensions, EU defense clause loom, right? So swing trading bias is slightly bullish, right? So it zooms out a little bit, gives me my target levels, pullback, right? And for each price target or other level, it gives me reasons or how price can be pushed either to the pullback area or what needs to happen to push price to the target area, right? And if I click on this little brain, it gives me an analysis of what needs to happen to push price back up to $7,000 on the S&P 500. Okay, so let's let that load. And this is so cool. And I'll show you some other little tips here, but it also shows you, at February 2nd in the Asian market, Trump mineral stockpile announcement sparks rise on rally, right? We'll click on that each candle. So here's what needs to happen to push the S&P 500 to 7,000, right? Fed speeches signal sustained high rates, boosting USD strength versus the euro. U.S. tariff threats pressure Eurozone growth, weakening euro. Eurozone industrial weakness, right? Here are macro event scenarios, right? ECB's European Central Bank's president, their speech, right? A dovish Lagarde on tariffs weakens the euro, propelling the S&P 500 to 7,000. We can see downplays growth risk during his speech on February 15th. Fed Bowman on February 16th, a hawkish Bowman comments on rates lifts. This can drive us higher. So it gives us a bunch of scenarios to look for in the future of what can spark a rally to this price target. Now, if we go down to the pullback area, right, let's get an analysis on that, right? What needs to happen to push the S&P 500 down to the supply zone or the support to 6,720? Right, we can see a dovish comments on tariffs during the European Central Bank. Lagarde comments, Eurozone industrial production beats eases, Japan GDP strength, U.S. political transition risks trigger structural USD weakness, right? And what are the macro event scenarios for this to happen? So again, we're watching the European Central Bank speech on the 14th and 15th. What needs to happen during that speech to push us back down? Fed Bowman, right? Industrial production, seasonally adjusted month over month on February 16th in the Eurozone, and then Japanese gross domestic product quarter over quarter, right? So things to look out for that can spark a pullback back down to this pullback area. And then we have our day trading. So it's really cool when you can also break down if you're just waking up in the morning, like, oh, what happened overnight? What happened in this candle? I can click on the candle, right? If I go back and I need to see specific events, right? Like what happened in this big candle here, right? What happened to cause this big sell-off between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. during the London-New York session? What happened? U.S. trade deficit widens to 34-year high, triggering, and then it shows me all the news releases within these larger candles that happened to start sparking this catalyst back down, right? So we had the initial one was news headlines such as U.S. trade deficit widens by most in nearly 34 years. And then we had additional RPT top alert, oil futures extend gain, so oil going up. And then we had factory orders month over month, extending the declines. Right? You can do this literally on any candle you see. Let's say you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my goodness, what happened in this candle, right? Just click on it, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the things that happened that sparked this price action. So that's the homepage, and you can do this with on anything. Like you do it on gold, right? Gold holds 5,046 on geopolitical tensions, profit taking ahead of European Central Bank, right? What happened in this candle? All right, what happened? Continuation of gold bull market amid global uncertainties, weak USD despite strong US dollar. So all this kind of cool stuff. All right, and then we have our price targets and pullback areas like I just showed you on the S&P. And then it also does it on stocks for my stock traders. All right, so what's affecting Tesla? What news releases? Let's get some price targets and pullback. So we're bearish, so we're expecting a push down to 400. Pull back to 430, and then what are the scenarios that can push price in either direction? So very powerful analytical tools, guys, playing into news and scenario news releases to help you decide your bias and which way you want to lean. So awesome stuff. Let's go into the next feature, which is going to be in the daily bias. This is actually a unique curated release that's specifically tailored to your products and your watch list. right? So it gives me an actual full analysis based on each of the products I'm watching for a quick review, right? It's essentially the dashboard, but in a much easier and quick to consume format. So this is mine for Tuesday, February 10th, right? The portfolio of NQ, blah, 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 exhibited mixed performance amid cautious market sentiment with equity indices and Tesla showing neutral to bullish hourly biases, while gold and NVIDIA leaned bearish. Common theme include neutral daily outlooks across most assets driven by anticipation of upcoming U.S. economic data. Just really cool, putting me in the zone for that day with what's happening on the symbols I'm watching. Gives me the upside and downside targets for each, and then the analysis. All right, let's look at NQ. Okay, and what's impacting this news? Okay, so I wake up. Okay, the NASDAQ rose 0.8% to 25,260, led by large cap tech rebound as AI concerns ease. Oracle surged 9.6 on AI upgrade. Right, so it's telling me everything about that product I need to know when I wake up to trade the markets. It really, I mean, this is better than sifting through news releases yourself and trying to figure out what's important and what's not. Right, so, and what's weighing into this analysis, right? We have a tech rebound. Right, so we had a big sell-off, and now most of tech is rebounding. It's telling me 40% of this is tying into it. We had an earnings beat within communications, healthcare, and financials. We had technical strength, so trading above the 200 period EMA, 1,000 points from all-time highs. Fed patience, Fed policy steady, and valuation risks. Right, telling me everything I need to know for that day about my products, really putting me in the zone, and so I don't have to do it myself. Tons of time and analysis just kind of curated for you here, right in your daily bias. Here's gold. Right, gold futures face bearish pressure as technical breakdown looms amid Fed uncertainty. Right, so what's weighing most is the technical breakdown on the chart. Right, we broke that 5,000 level. Trading underneath $5,000. Gold futures have formed a bearish doji candle pattern on the daily chart. Like all of this stuff just curated for me right here on this dashboard. We have, of course, the news releases, right? Important news, what's most popular and what's highest impact, and you can sort this accordingly. Maybe I want just all of the news, and then I can see what it's affecting most directly as this news comes out, what is moving directly with that headline. If I want to trade high impact news as it comes out, this came out 7:47 2 hours ago, gold's moving up. And then of course I have my analysis, right? Always click on that brain and you can screenshot it to share with your community or your friends or on your social media. And it tells me what this means and why it's important, right? So next level news feed. And I can sort this by central banks. I can sort it by types of economic data. Let's say I'm just interested in Japanese or U.S. politics or tariff news or just U.S. stocks, which stocks I'm following, which indexes, right? Let's say I just trade the NQ, do that accordingly. And it'll give me news that affects the NQ. All right, we have our economic calendar, right? This is a fairly normal feature where most people get this on Forex Factory or FinViz or what have you. But this tells us now what I need to look for. Okay, and if we go back to what's some high impact news, right? We have initial jobless claims coming up on Thursday, February 19th. Right, this is what I looked through last week for non-farm payrolls, what I looked for unemployment, for CPI. All right, so as it's coming up in 5 days, high impact news, signals Fed rate, cut timing. This is what I'm looking for, right? This is what it does. And then it gives me the playbook. All right, so if it comes in above 230, we're bearish. If it comes in above 235, that's very bearish. Ranging conditions on forecast, and then below 220, 204. Gives me all the historical data of where the numbers have been coming in and essentially what to look for and why it matters. Okay, so this is the playbook. Right, so I just wanted to go over real quick. Right, so this is how I traded it last week. So this is the NQ, and non-farm payroll news came out. They said if it came over a certain number, it was going to be very bullish. Right, so it came out as very bullish according to the playbook. We got this big initial spike, and I'm not just hitting buy because it said it was very bullish news, guys. It's not going to work that way. You're not just going to wait for the number to come out and it says very bullish and you just hit the buy button. Not how we're using it, right? We still have to trade with a system and with actual setups. So the news came out as very bullish. So we got this initial candle. I did a couple of momentum scaps to the outside, but what I was really looking for was the hold above right here, the upper standard deviation for the pullback long, and that's where I got the trade. Okay, bullish sentiment, bullish news. Now, eventually it sold off, right? But I was able to catch this news while being prepared. So instead of sitting out like I usually do, I was able to capture that move. Now, the next one was unemployment. All right, unemployment came out bearish, right? This is 8:30. We did get this initial move up, very small, and it led to a very bearish sell off the entire day. Right? So in context, right? Okay, well, it came in bearish. We had a little move up, cleared the highs. And now for the entire day, we had this bearish sentiment. So that also played in line. Not the initial reaction, but the sentiment on the macroeconomic news for the entire session played out massively bearish. Right? And then on Friday, we had CPI, right? CPI came out here, came out as forecast. So we expected ranging conditions. And look what we got. We got almost a perfectly ranging morning, whips to both sides, right? Up, down, right? So it's predicting range. That's essentially what we got. We did get a little bit of a grind up, but we sold that off and came back. We actually changed. We closed unchanged for the day. So a perfect little example of a ranging market for on forecast news. So very powerful. Okay, let's go on to this allows you to backtest fundamentals. All right, so this is a great, see what happened inside each candle and why price moved. All right, so I can click on any candle within any product and it'll tell me what happened. Existing home sales collapsed to 3.91, missing 4.15 forecast. So we had bad home numbers and we absolutely dumped at this time. Showed me technicals so you can really explore what's happening and why and backtest it. We have our currencies for my currency traders. Okay, central bank estimates and events, economic calendar for my currency traders. Okay, we have equities for my stock traders. Markets are neutral outlook mode, right? Most active options, put call positioning for today, major stocks and what they're doing, different sectors, right? Unusual option activity in different stocks, right? Volatility spike, high IV suggests market expects a major move, and MSTR, big bet, large volume versus open interest, right? It's telling me, it's giving me lots of different stock trading ideas. What's trending? Okay, what's not? Right? S&P 500 versus 10-year bond futures, right? So most insider trading, equities headlines, right? So just giving me so many ideas for different plays, all used by AI, right? Big bet on Chevron, large volume versus open interest. Okay, so really cool there. We have the economy. This is just different core benchmarks over time. So we have our interest rate, CPI, unemployment, GDP, consumer sentiment, just to be in line with what the numbers actually are. Okay, this is a commitment of traders report. So it shows us open interest for all futures, right? Whether it be grains, indexes, long versus short, and whether the market is bullish or bearish and what the net position is and why, right? What's increasingly bullish, what's increasingly bearish, right? So if you're trading the S&P 500, the market is currently bearish, but it's increasing bullish, right? So it's going the opposite way. We can expect a bullish move because of the trader positioning, right? So you can just track this, and this is the different days, right? So you can see how it's changing over time, right? Just another tool to help you develop an overall bias. We have our earnings tracker. All right, so that's helpful, and it'll give you an analysis based on that earnings event for any of my earnings play traders, right? If you tend to trade earnings plays, this is going to be super helpful for you. And then we have we have a way of providing feedbacks, any updates that are coming, and then essentially the market recap for any day. So I think this tool is very cool. I did just start using it, but I'm sold on it so far. Every day I'm checking out my daily bias. I'm checking out what's going on with the different stocks I trade. I trade options, I sell puts. I have bigger positions that I swing trade. So there's so many tools here that are saving me a ton of time in my analysis and just helping me with my bias and plays. If I'm coming up with trade ideas that are not aligned with overarching sentiment, I want to know that. So this is one way I'm using it. Also with the playbook as well has become very powerful. So to get a discount on this product, guys, I am a partner with Market AI. You can get a discount with code Drysdale. I encourage you to check it out. It's viewapwave.com/MRKT. You can also check it out at the link in the bottom of this description. And I hope you enjoy it. We'll be using it in the room. Come join us there. We have a free Discord where we're posting the plays and how we're trading the different bias and AI news that's being accumulated by this product. So exciting times to be a retail trader, to have access to this type of powerful tool that we've never had access to before, and looking forward to using it over the next couple of months and see how it shapes my trading moving forward. Not just my day trading, but all aspects of my investing and how I manage my positions and my options and everything else I do. So thanks for joining this video, guys. Be sure to hit the like button. Please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.